Today I'm presenting Sea Ltd, the ticker SE. Sea is a Southeast Asian tech conglomerate with 3 dominant category leaders across e-commerce, gaming, and fintech. Shopee, their e-commerce business, is doing run rate 120 billion of GMV, accelerating growth. Their video gaming segment, Garena, is around a $1.5 billion EBITDA run rate business, re-accelerating growth. And their fintech business, Sea Money, is growing the fastest amongst the group and we expect it to do $1 billion of EBITDA this year. So you can think about Sea as the Amazon of Southeast Asia, plus the world's most popular game, plus a fintech business that's very synergistic with the e-commerce business. All 3 segments are some of the fastest growing businesses historically. Shopee grew GMV at 100% CAGR over the last 10 years. Garena, Free Fire, which is their hit game, grew their users at a 40% CAGR over the last 10 years. And Sea Money is the fastest growing segment within the business, in the ecosystem. So Sea is the backbone of the Southeast Asian economy. Their e-commerce and DFS segments touch nearly 850 million people's lives daily, 600 million plus in Southeast Asia and 200 million plus in Brazil. When you think about these countries, think Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines. Consumer demographics in these regions are some of the most attractive end markets in the world. Middle class is young with growing incomes, and e-commerce is in early stages of penetration. We believe the end e-commerce market will grow at a mid-teens CAGR over the next 5 to 10 years, with Shopee and Sea Money taking market share on top of overall market growth. Some regional macro trends: GDP growth, inflation, and interest rates have been pretty stable across Southeast Asia, even relative to the United States. Given that tariffs and geopolitical tensions between the US and China are a front and center focus right now, we actually think Southeast Asia and Sea Ltd is uniquely positioned to be a beneficiary of supply chain moves out of China into Southeast Asia. And it sort of doesn't even matter if the US and China end up reaching a trade deal, because large multinational enterprises have no choice but to hedge their supply chain risks by doing this. And if you use Trump's first term as like a barometer, the shift resulted in a major tailwind and boom for the economies of these Southeast Asian nations. And like Apple, for example, right? They've already indicated recently that they're going to move their entire iPhone production out of China into India. So I'll spend a little time talking about each segment. Shopee is the most dominant e-commerce business in Southeast Asia. They have 55% market share, and they continue to take share quite rapidly. They have very much a logistics advantage in terms of service quality and cost to serve versus other platforms who predominantly rely on third-party logistics. And then they're growing really fast in Brazil, and they're taking market share from Mercado Libre. They were about a third of the size of Meli in 2023, and now they're a little more than 40% of the size of Meli in terms of GMV. They actually also passed Meli in total users and web traffic a few years ago. Now Meli just has higher average order values. Their moat, hyper-localized approach, first-party logistics, and network effects have all expanded Sea's moat. These countries are very protectionist against their small, medium merchants, MSMEs, because they're the backbones of the economy. So it makes it difficult for Chinese exporters to come in. And then, they're the lowest cost operator because of their logistics advantages in terms of cost to serve. Average order values are $10 across these regions, so every penny you save on logistics it makes a big difference for consumers who have limited wallet share. And then, they launched their live shopping business about 18 months ago. Live shopping is the equivalent of like a QVC online, wildly popular in Asia. They grew that to beat out TikTok and be the most popular live shopping in Indonesia and arguably Southeast Asia as well. And lastly, advertising. Given their scale, and e-commerce is a scale game, they can pull levers like advertising to subsidize other parts of the business. And they revamped their ad platform about a year and a half ago, significantly increased their return on ad spend, and that business exploded and is now around 2% of 2% of GMV is ad revenues. We think actually that ad revenues over time will grow to 5% of GMV. And if you look at marketplaces of similar scale, like Pinduoduo, JD, Baba, et cetera, they typically max out at 7%. And this is a 50% margin business, so it's a pretty big contributor. Yeah, this is Shopee's geographical diversification. Indonesia is their largest market with 29% of GMV, pretty well diversified across other, the other countries. Moving on to gaming, Garena. Garena is their game studio and publisher. They have a hit game called Free Fire. Free Fire is an evergreen game with over 600 million users. It's the largest mobile game in the world. Over the last year, we've seen a pretty big inflection in Garena. They've diversified to other games such as Arena of Valor, Call of Duty Mobile, Delta Force, and Free City, some of which were co-developed with Tencent. And in the short term, Free Fire is relaunching in India. They have about 100 million pre-registered users, up from 70 million. And then Free City, which is a spin-off of Free Fire, more similar to like a Grand Theft Auto-like game, had a fantastic launch in Argentina, and we expect that to be a meaningful contributor this year as well. And finally, Sea Money, they're the leading digital financial services provider in Southeast Asia. They solve a real problem and a real need. Half of Southeast Asia is unbanked. Compare that to the US, 7%, and China's 20%, so there's a long runway for growth. And there's tremendous synergies between Sea Money and Shopee because they touch so many consumers and users on the Shopee platform. They have all this consumer data, and so they're much better able to underwrite credit worthiness than anyone else. And that reflects in their non-performing loan score and their non-NPLS scores, right? Which is stable and at 1.2% has improved sequentially over the last years. Lastly, it's a founder-led management team with extreme alignment with shareholders. Forrest Lee is the founder. He owns almost 20% of the company and 60% of the voting rights, so he has control over the company and the board. And Chris Fang, who's the president of Sea and the CEO of Shopee, also owns a significant share. Insiders and management own 40% plus of the company, which includes Tencent, that owns 17% of the company. One thing to note that's quite important is their actions in 2022. The management team, when the stock went down, basically removed all cash compensation for themselves. And there was 30 million fully vested RSU grants worth $3 billion that they canceled as the stock went down, which they restruck as PSUs with 120 share strike price. In my investment career, I've never seen a management team do something like this in the United States, let alone in Asia. So great alignment and a fantastic team. Setup valuation, we think the stock has 30% upside. I wish I pitched this a week ago. The stock has done nothing but go up. But in the short term, 6 to 12 months, we think the stock has 30% upside to $200 a share, which will bring it in line with multiples of comps. And then more importantly, over a 3 to 5 year period, we think EBITDA inflects from $4 billion this year to $12.5 billion. And we think the stock will be a steady compounder at a 25% CAGR and be a 3x plus. We're just going to see, I think we're just going to see like a a continued beat and race cadence of high growth and market share gain and improving unit economics and margins over time. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So bringing people together is hard. I build investment firms for a living, and at the start, I'm trying to bring 10 to 20 people together, and it's like herding cats. So imagine bringing all of you here together. I think part of the reason is we throw a great conference. We're better than the competition. But if there's anything we can do to make it better, grab me or anyone on the host committee and give us some ideas. Now, talking about competition, I'm curious, what was it about Sea that gave you the conviction the competitive dynamics are such that they'll be the winner?
Yeah, there's a few like moving parts that all coincided together. So the logistics advantages that they have, right? All their competitors rely on predominantly 3PLs, right? Third-party logistics, which are much higher cost. Mainly J&T Express, which charges 75 cents per parcel and makes about 7 cents of EBIT per package and has fixed costs in Southeast Asia, right? Shopee Express, their first-party logistics, has a much lower cost to serve and a much better service quality. That coupled with a demographic in a region where AOVs are $10, right? So low AOVs relative to developed markets. So every penny matters. And so they have a massive price advantage on their end product. The same product will sell on multiple platforms, but Shopee will always be the lowest price, right? And over time, they had initially given their merchants the ability to use 3PLs, but over time they've sort of migrated back to Shopee Express, and that differential cost to serve blew out because as J&T lost order volume, they needed to raise price in order to keep the same ROE, and ROE is an important metric for a logistics company. So when their competitors saw that, they were burning tons of cash. It was a highly competitive environment in Southeast Asia for many years, but they couldn't compete on price, and they were burning tons of cash to try and do more discounting and promotional activity, and Shopee's scale and the levers that they can pull to continue subsidizing was too great, and then over the last couple years, the water kind of just overflew, and take rates just all went up across the board, and everyone moved to improve unit economics at the same time, and so you had a situation where the scale player, was able to take more market share and beat out everyone else. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.